Yeah, my name is Shay McEvoy. I studied business management with placement at Queen's University Belfast. Yeah, so as I said, this placement was involved in my degree at Queen's. So I took that year out in the Southern GP Federation. So that was my first experience and exposure to a real business environment. And doing that, I addressed a couple of areas such as HR, website development, and finance and payroll. When I graduated with a first in July 2023, I then got my role in the KTP. So that was working with two organisations in the manufacturing industry, AB Pneumatics and Plastics 2000. So they were focused on realigning themselves as two separate entities and standardising their processes to work as one full body. So that was challenging, but throughout the 2 years, we worked on restructuring the organisations under one management structure. We looked at increasing efficiencies by introducing lean initiatives. And in doing so, I worked very closely with the management team on strategic thinking, which is what brought me to my current role as a business development manager. And I'm now part of the senior management team. I mean, the list is endless. I suppose the most important one for me was communication. As you can imagine, you're trying to implement ideas or trying to bring forward an element of change, and how you might communicate that with the factory floor is going to be completely different to how you communicate with the university or also the board of directors. I suppose in doing that, you're also developing your skills and I suppose your influencing skills. You're looking at trying to bring people on a journey and finding evidence through the university that I suppose makes your ideas real. And yeah, it's all about trying to get people to follow with you and what you're trying to implement. I suppose another key one is adaptability. The nature of the KTP is constantly changing. I found my role was constantly evolving, and the organisations were both growing at a rapid pace. So although the long-term objectives always remained the same, you sort of had to stay ready to adapt to anything that might come your way and trying to stay effective in completing the end goals. I suppose one for me would be the ability to manage people's expectations and I suppose adapt to their different perceptions. As I said before, I found myself in the KTP. I was working between the workshop floor as well as the board of directors, and when you were trying to implement an idea that affected both, you always find that maybe they didn't see eye to eye on certain things. So I suppose it's that element of diplomacy where you're trying to create a format where people could challenge each other, but in a respectful way, and creating a platform where we could find common ground and develop that change and make it as effective as possible. Well, it was definitely really beneficial for me in terms of my professional and my personal development. You get a training budget alongside your 2 year, I suppose, working time, and working with the university to guide you in identifying areas that you can develop in yourself. For me, it was project management and Lean and Six Sigma. So you get that support from the university whilst also being trusted from day one by the organization to implement the changes that are there. So, I mean, I suppose it's all in all really balanced and you're getting support from both ends. Well, I mean, I'd say uncertainty is normal. The reason I picked business management with placement was that I kept my options open. I wanted to gain a bit of experience while studying and seeing where I went. I never had a concrete plan as to what I was going to do when I first went into university. I suppose that's still the same now, but my advice would be to, find something that's going to challenge you and also give you the opportunity to grow and take risks whilst you're at this stage, because over time you'll finally start to see what direction you want to go in. Um, I'd say the KTP is probably a really underrated graduate program that not a lot of people know about. As I said before, you're being trusted by an organization from day one to implement real ideas. You're in charge of them. Whereas in a normal graduate role, you might find you're sort of supporting projects rather than leading them. But again, whilst you're taking in charge of those projects, you're still getting supported by the university, so you're never going to be left stranded. I think that trust is really important at the beginning, and it really does help build your confidence as a graduate coming out of university.